Time for nightmare creatures to cash in on any goodwill it might have built up with a sewer level, the Thames Tunnel. That's how that word is pronounced, by the way. British pronunciation can be odd sometimes. Probably should have also mentioned that the Peeps in Samuel Pepys is spelled P-E-P-Y-S, against all odds. And right in the beginning there, I used the quick turn ability that I forgot I had earlier to do some exploration, get us a full health orb. And we quickly hit a dead end. And a tooltip that tells us to use a combo on nothing in particular. So I used it on that minecart, which cleared the way. So here's our first victim. We're gonna get to use the Temple Strike on him, which is a terrible combo. There it was. That third kick was the Temple Strike. It does barely any extra damage and has no particular useful effect, like chopping enemies to bits, so I shan't be using it very often. But we are introduced to a new enemy type for the sewers. Particularly awful enemy type, the insect. They're very, very fast. They have low HP, but they do absurd amounts of damage, so I'm gonna avoid getting hit by them. Which is more difficult than it sounds without predictive knowledge. Now, unfortunately, all of our combos are basically useless. Unlike Nadia, who has that many, many kicks combo that does a lot of damage. Ignatius's are all terrible. And at this point, though, the Docker is dead. And we can continue beating his corpse as long as we feel like it. We have to back away in order to let it drop. You can use it to practice combos or just to get some rage out. This game can be a bit obnoxious sometimes. And another insect. We're going to find that almost all of them are waiting in ambush to attack us. Can easily get them to start a combo on you before you even know they exist. And they can easily knock off about half your health before you even know what's going on. We're already heading towards the exit to the left. So of course I went right to hopefully find a secret, but this gate is impenetrable. There's nothing back there, despite how elaborate it is. We're quickly ambushed yet again once we head down the right path. Almost this entire level is just a series of ambushes from dockers and insects. Gets a bit old. As soon as I feel like going the correct way, we will find ourselves at a dead end. Time to check the map to see what we should do. Looks like we should be able to get by, but instead, we're going to have to take this alternate path, this little detour. The PlayStation version has a quick map button. You just hit select and the map pops right up. But in the N64 there is no select button, so you have to go through the menu. And in the detour we are introduced to a new enemy, the Thames Monster. Jacques Cousteau's worst nightmare, to quote the actual game manual. Because they are seaborne creatures, we will rarely be fighting them directly. We're pretty much always going to just shoot them in the head. Which, even without the explosive barrels, does deal with them instantly. But the hole from which it emerged does prevent our further access to the next area, unless we go through this side area that was exploded open for us. Side area full of insects and just a ton of items. We're really going to stock up while we're over here. So while I'm slowly kicking open boxes and gathering the various necessities that are strewn about, pay close attention to their attempt at making shadows in a PlayStation game. That's what those discolored textures on the floor and walls are all about. It looks so bad that I initially thought they were trying to indicate a secret to me. But no, that's their... I'll give them points for creative effort at trying to build some atmosphere graphically. They abandoned this tactic pretty early on, but it was worth a shot, I guess. So, taking quick stock of the items we have, we earned a Berserker as a bonus item. And also a freeze spell as another bonus item. I had to replay the first 2 levels because my save got destroyed somehow. I'm going to forget to use those for a long time, but we wouldn't otherwise be seeing them until much later on in the game, so probably still see them early anyway. Chop another docker to bits, and head back to the dead end. You can see on the map that we've successfully traveled about 10 feet. But we got a health orb out of it. Now, I happen to know that up here is a pretty significant ambush. 2 dockers at once, so we're going to try out the proximity mine. As soon as it's triggered, the enemy that triggers it dies. I'm sure there are enemies with high enough HP to survive it, but dockers certainly aren't among them, and dockers have very high HP. Otherwise, this fight would be extremely difficult. Dockers are formidable. Proximity mine is otherwise pretty useless. The gun is better in every way. The only use for the proximity mine is if you know there's going to be an attack coming. Yet another way that this game benefits people who have played it before. So down this way, try and count the number of times this hallway collapses on us. There's a second, and a third. There's the final one. 7 collapses in a single short hallway. All designed to waste your time, or your health if you're impatient. And in this game, time is health normally, with the adrenaline meter. So it's very rude. That brings us to a nice empty room. Or is it? Lone dockers can be stun locked pretty easily. That was a ridiculous number of hits that it took to kill it, though. But we'll get to collect its heart for an extra life. As well as a very useful tri-gun and a flash spell. That's a new item. It's another very powerful item that I will neglect to use until my hand is forced, as my hoarding instinct in this game is very strong. I've had 2 previous runs that ended completely because I ran out of items. Could not, under reasonable circumstances, be expected to complete any further levels. So that whole side area is entirely optional, but you get some good pickups. And this path here leads back to the room where we entered the hallway that kept collapsing. So the collapsing hallway is completely optional. Don't ever go there. It'll just waste all your time. Screen shook a little bit there, prematurely ruining this guy's jump scare. What a waste. Now, I was so distracted by him wandering down this hallway here, really getting on my nerves, that I failed to go down the hallway that he blew open when he did his jump scare. There's an item back there, a small healing orb, I believe. But there's also an explosive barrel that, if you blow it up, nothing happens. Just designed to waste one of your bullets. And off to the left here on another path that I don't go is another exploding barrel that goes nowhere. Here, though, I was prepared for a second insect to appear from behind that gate. Never happens, though. That only happens in the PlayStation version. And when the 2 insects show up at the same time, it's a very tough fight. They attack very quickly, back each other up. You end up stuck doing a lot of blocking until one of them dies. It's a perfect spot to use one of your instant kill items. But when it's just one, no need to bother. I like pressing my face up against that gate because, off in the distance, You can just barely see the buildings and lights of a distant town. On the PlayStation version, that comes through much cleaner. Had to angle the camera just right. There's the first time I've been hit by an insect this level. And it wasn't too bad, but a lot of their attacks are much more damaging. Get a closer look at the Thames monster here. The manual calls it a six-armed octopi. Which, if it's six-armed, it's not an octo anything. And also, octopi is not the correct plural of octopus, because that's not how Greek words pluralize. I'm not very good with their Greek in this game, if Hekate is any indication. But anyway, we can follow this stone path around the corner here to another required fight with a docker. And it is required. We do have to hit that switch that he's guarding in order to progress. This is made much more difficult on the PlayStation version, where the stone path you saw me casually stroll down to get here ends abruptly before it makes it to this room. So you have to do some platforming across the wooden planks that you saw. That door there is required to get to the end of the level. Very frustrating to get to that door and then realize you have to backtrack. So that stone archway above the path, that's what causes all the problems. It restricts your height, so you have to choose a very specific path onto the wooden debris off to the left there. Also, this bridge here is normally chopped up into pieces on the PlayStation version. Many areas are broken throughout here, so you have to do 3 or 4 jumps just to get to where I'm standing. And for some reason when you cross that threshold, the barrels just explode and kill the Thames monster. Saves you a bullet, although there's no easy way to know that would even happen. And also this little side area, you normally have to do 2 jumps to get over to it. But it's all connected in the N64 version. Very mercifully so, because I've game overed in this room plenty of times on the PlayStation. Now here though, the bridge does trick you a little bit. Indicates that we should go over there, when in fact we should jump over here, because there's another docker who will ambush that little platform. And if you go over there, when he ambushes, he can easily push you back off into the water for an instant kill. I'd rather not deal with 2 monsters, so I'm gonna play with a dynamite. Should save our dynamite for future use, but it's one of my favorite items and I couldn't resist the urge to play with it. Without arms, the insect cannot harm us except for the fact that it is on fire. When it touches us, we catch fire, take a bit of chip damage. But the fire also killed it. And the docker has also been disarmed. This causes its attack pattern to change slightly, although it does still attempt to do its arm attacks. But its charging attack will only do just the tiniest amount of damage, though the regular amount of knockback, so we're just putting it out of its misery. The PlayStation version of the manual mistakenly states that the docker is immune to dynamite attacks. It is still affected by them in the PlayStation version, though. And it's one of my favorite things to do, blow them to bits. Not as lethal as the proximity mine, but so much more fun. It's one of my favorite things about this game is that dismembered enemies can still attack you, and their behavior patterns and the effects of their attacks does change slightly. That specific element is something I've never seen replicated in any other game. I think it's really neat. Plenty of other games had dismemberment, but dismembered enemies are just effectively dead. Makes it unfortunate that so many enemies are so strongly resistant to dismemberment. Like the insects here. Rarely get dismembered. But that's the last of them. 100% killed. We did miss that one item though, so we will not be rewarded for our performance, except that we get to leave the sewers. One of the most improved levels between the versions, and it's still really bad. But we don't get to leave just yet. There's still the matter of that snake that Adam Crowley foreshadowed at the end of the last level. It's onward to our first boss fight with the sewer snake. This fight occurs before the sewer level in the PlayStation version, which is why we saw this snake dead in the loading screen. What we have to do for this first phase is knock down the pillars, while the snake breathes fire at the pillars. They're unaffected by fire, but extremely susceptible to getting whacked with a stick. Gotta wait for it to do the full 5-directional spit. Then we'll have a safe second to knock down a pillar. And if we're quick, we can chain them together, because it'll be stunned by the debris from the first pillar. Normally the music in this game is great, but for some reason in this boss theme, the drums are insane. It's like a Tim and Eric sketch. But regardless, this is where the boss fight gets especially tedious. We can do actual damage, but only when its head is down like that. And the window is very small, and the head can hurt you. Yep. There we go. So 3 missed opportunities. All of them have resulted in damage to my character, unfortunately. So I'm gonna grab that health item that's just lying there. Another change from the PlayStation version is that normally zombies will hop out of the pool that the sewer snake is in during this part of the fight. Further interrupt your ability to do damage to him. They're actually a really irritating obstacle, but I think only 3 of them will ever pop out of that pool, and sometimes they will fall back into the pool and be instantly destroyed. So when you're fighting the zombies, you want to prioritize killing them until he runs out. If we time it properly, we can do a spinning or jumping attack on the head. That'll do double damage compared to our normal swings. But regardless, it's still going to take quite a few rotations, and the timing is difficult. Probably better to just go for the easy attack that you are more likely to hit with. No matter what you do, it takes way too many hits. One of the things this game is notorious about is having terrible boss fights. This, of course, is exemplary. I don't even know why the triple biting attack is a thing. All you have to do is hold the block button. It offers no challenge whatsoever. Just waste your time. I look like he was gonna die. You can see I've got the timing pretty good on doing a spinning attack on him. There he finally goes. Oh, and a gunshot rings out as he dies. What's the deal with that, Crowley?
Death to all traitors. Nothing shall stand between me and my destiny.
While we were dealing with his pet, Crowley took out a traitor, but not quite well enough, so he's provided us with our lead for the next level. I'm sure we could all use a drink after trudging through the sewers, so let's make for the Seawolf Pub.